Hello and welcome to the Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Athena Katsoulis on behalf of Social Suite as well as the OTC markets. We're very pleased to have you joined us for our next live presentation from Guanajuato Silver Co. Limited, a precious metal producer engaged in reactivating past producing silver and gold mines in central Mexico. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Scheduled Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome James Anderson, Chairman and CEO of Guanajuato Silver Limited, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol GSVRF and on the TSX under the symbol GSVR. Welcome, James.
Athena, thank you so much. Thanks to Virtual Investor Conferences, and thanks to everybody out there who is listening and watching and wants to know a little bit more about Guanajuato Silver. I'm going to jump right into it. Normally this is a 40-minute presentation. We're going to try and do it in about 20 minutes and then leave a number of minutes for questions. And on this platform, you have an ability to ask questions, and we will do our very, very best to after I speed through this presentation. We are Guanajuato Silver, and I am speaking to you today from from the Valenciana mine in Guanajuato, Mexico. That's one of our principal mining operations in Mexico. We are principally a silver and gold producer. In terms of revenue, about 50% of our revenue comes from silver, about 40% from gold, and then about 10% from base metals, some lead and zinc that we produce at our Topia mine in Durango, a little bit further north from where I am. So we're very much a silver-focused mining company, and we like to call ourselves Mexico's fastest growing silver producer. So why is it that we want to do that? Well, silver is a very unique metal for a number of different reasons. One of the things is that it is both an industrial metal and a precious metal. The industrial component right now for silver, we think the economics of that is very, very compelling. By a lot of different studies, by the year 2025, which is only about a year and a half away from us now, there are a number of predictions that we will be consuming about 25% of mined silver simply for photovoltaics. The world's demand for photovoltaics for the solar panel industry is enormous and growing. It's about 14% today, but those numbers are supposed to skyrocket here in the next several years. And why that's interesting and difficult for the silver mining companies to be able to answer that demand is because silver is quite unique. Only about 25% of it comes from primary silver mines. Everything else, about 75% of it, comes as byproduct from other mines. And I think it is unlikely that we will be putting copper mines or nickel mines or zinc mines into production simply because of a higher silver price. Therefore, it is our contention that the price of silver can move significantly higher, which it has been doing for most of this year, without having any particular demand response from the silver mining industry. So, what have we been doing about that? With that premise, we have been constructing Mexico's fastest growing silver mining company over the last 2 years. A little over 2 years ago, we purchased our first mine called El Cubo, which is only about 10 miles from where I'm sitting here right now. El Cubo we purchased from a larger Mexican-Canadian silver mining company called Endeavor Silver, and we were able to put that mine back into production. It had been closed for about 18 months. We put it back into production within 4 months. And I think that's, in an industry that often measures success over years and sometimes decades, I think our ability to be able to bring the mines that we have back into production swiftly kind of sets us apart. Last summer, in August last year, so just under a year, we completed a transaction to buy 3 additional mines, Valenciana and San Ignacio here in Guanajuato, where I am, and then the Topia mine, which I mentioned a little while ago, further north. We've managed to be able to buy these mines very, very inexpensively, and I'll talk about that as we go through our presentation. We ended last December at a run rate of production of about 3.5 million silver equivalent ounces per year. We are on track to be able to be at a run rate of about 4.6 to 4.8 million silver equivalent ounces by the end of this year. And you can see by this graph, you can see that quarter over quarter production growth. We've been able to do that quarter over quarter. Of course, as it gets a little bit higher in numbers, our ability to be able to meet that growth every single quarter may become somewhat challenged, but we're very proud of the growth that we've been able to bring to the company quarter over quarter consistently since the company went into production in 2021. And we've been doing that at really quite attractive costs. Our all-in sustaining cost is currently about $21.50. That is about normal in the industry right now in Mexico. We do have significant cost headwinds right now. There's the normal inflation that we see sort of all over the world, but the Mexican peso is one of the it's probably the strongest currency on planet Earth right now for the last 12 months. It has appreciated by about 20%. That's difficult for us. We sell our silver and gold concentrate and we get US dollars for it. But about 70% of our costs are denominated in pesos. So that's been a bit of a headwind for us, but we're doing a number of different things to address those issues as we go forward. This is the beautiful city of Guanajuato where I am today. It's a 450-year-old mining town. It is a beautiful city. It's got a real cultural heritage. There's nice restaurants, nice hotels, nice parks. The reason why that's important is that it has allowed us generally to bring a very high level of Mexican mining talent to come and work with us in Guanajuato. So if you are a young engineer or a young geologist and you've got a young family, you can work in a dusty little town in Chihuahua, or you can come and live in the beautiful city of Guanajuato. And because of that, we've managed to attract some very, very high quality Mexican mining talent. Just as importantly, Guanajuato has a 450-year-old mining history. I was born in the Canadian mining town of Timmins, Ontario. We have a very well-established 100-year mining history that we're very proud of, but 100 years is not the same as a 450-year mining history. So this is one of the great silver mining districts through antiquity anywhere on planet Earth. I'm going to talk about the mines around Guanajuato. So Guanajuato is the name of this state in Mexico, and it's also the name of the city, the picture of which I just showed you. So I'm going to talk about El Cubo, Valenciana, San Ignacio, and then our mine to the north in the state of Durango, which is just a little bit different for us. So here's El Cubo. This is the plant. I mentioned that we had paid, or perhaps I didn't, but we paid $15 million for this asset about 2 years ago. And getting good deals on these mining assets, that is something that Guanajuato Silver has done consistently. And I would suggest that we will be able to continue to do that going forward. Just to put it in perspective, the last time that this asset changed hands was in 2012. Endeavour Silver paid $200 million for it. And then they spent about $30 million building the plant that you see here and the surrounding infrastructure. So for us to pay $15 million for it and then spend about $5 million refurbishing the plant and going underground the way that we have, you can see here perhaps a better view of all of the infrastructure around El Cubo. But it is good value, and we try to bring good value to the shareholders and have these transactions accretive very, very quickly. Here you can see a kind of an oblong long section of the mining at El Cubo. It's a large mine. There are hundreds of kilometers of tunnels that access various parts of the mine. This mine has been in production on and off, but mostly on for about 120 years. All of the pink areas are where active mining is going on right now. And I'll make one more point. As we've bought these mines from other operators, generally speaking, they have not been well invested in in the years prior to their closing. So it comes to us to not only purchase the mine at a discount, but then to spend some money on CapEx. Basically, we have bought fixer-uppers, and so the CapEx spending now and probably for the next 18 months or so continues to be quite elevated. Let me move on from there. This picture is of our Valenciana Mines Complex and of the Cata Mill, which is only about 100 yards from where I'm sitting. I can hear the ball mills of the plant turning just outside of my window. This plant is a little bit older than the one that you just saw at Kubo, but it's in very, very good shape. It's the same type of system. It is a flotation plant. And so we make a concentrate, 80% of which we sell to a British company called Ocean Partners, but we sell about 20% of our concentrates to Samsung as well. That's been very, very helpful for us throughout this whole piece. This is the mine over which I'm sitting right now. This is Valenciana. This is one of the great silver mines of antiquity. Valenciana has been in operation pretty much continuously for 450 years. There was a time in the 1700s when Valenciana was producing about 25% of the whole world's silver. Now, it was there were areas where there was extraordinarily high-grade material back then. I think we're just about out of that material. However, at depth and laterally, there is enormous areas. People will be mining silver and gold from the Valenciana complex for hundreds of years in the future. I always like to say that my grandkids will be mining here as well. You can see some of the resources that we have. The grade is good, and the expandability of those resources is very, very evident. So let's switch to San Ignacio. This is a mine that's just off to the west of Guanajuato. San Ignacio has always been a mine without a production facility. And so from our portal and from the mine at San Ignacio, we truck the material about 20 miles to the processing plant where I am here. And you can see this is an interesting view of San Ignacio. You can see the waste material that is simply blasted rock that doesn't have very much silver and gold piled here. We have been doing some hand sorting of some of this material to get excess high-grade vein material out of this, and that's been working for us very, very well. You can see it's certainly a very large resource that we have, and we've been doing some good work, making some money out of additional material from there. Going up north, so probably maybe 1,000 kilometers, maybe something like 700, 800 miles to the north of us, in the state of Durango and high up in the mountains, the Sierra Mountains, is the Topia mine. This one has a long history as well. Topia has been in production for about 70 years, of which about 40 years it was mined by Peñoles, which is Mexico's largest silver mining company, which is Mexico's largest mining company, full stop. In the 1990s, Peñoles decided that perhaps Topia was a little bit small for their needs. They ended up selling it to one of their mining executives who liked the mine so much and felt that having it as a personal investment would be a good idea. It then went into the hands of Great Panther and we bought it as part of our Great Panther purchases last summer. In reference to the type of deals that we've been able to get, last summer we constructed this transaction with Great Panther to buy all of their Mexican operations. Again, for just under $15 million, we bought 3 mines and 2 production facilities. And just another illustration of our ability to get good value from shareholders' dollars. This is an aerial view of the plant at Topia. It is older. It needs some capital expenditures. And we have budgeted about $3.5 million of expenditures, not only to expand the plant, but also to bring it into the 21st century. So some of the things that we are planning to do and some of the things that we've done in 2023, ramping up El Cubo to about 32,000 tons per month. We are there. The Cata plant, which again is about 100 yards away from where I'm speaking to you, ramping up that production to about 20,000 tons per month. We are there. The Topia mill expansion, we have not really started that just yet. We've got ideas and plans but that will occur over the next 18 months or so, and an expansion of the tailings capacity at El Cubo to as much as 15 years in a new dry stack facility. That tailings facility, when we get a permit for it, we've done all of the engineering and filed all of the ongoing necessary permits with Mexico City. So we expect any week now to be able to get that permit in place. And what that does is it will give us a clarity on having an additional 15 years worth of tailings capacity. The dry stack system will use less water. It will be stronger from an environmental standpoint. It's just better on for every checkbox. So we hope to be able to be in a position to announce that sort of thing in the weeks and months ahead. Here's a slide where you can see our 4 mines and 3 production facilities, and in that way, I know that there's a lot of names and a lot of places on the map, so it tends to help people organize that just a little bit better. And here's a look at all of our resources. Now, for those of you who are not intricately involved in the mining world, I can tell you these are modest resources. However, these mines, all of them, have shown an ability to continue putting more and more and more mineralized material in front over decades and indeed centuries. It's difficult with these narrow vein, high-grade systems to be able to drill more than, let's say, 5 to 7 years of material out in front, which is what we have here. But we are very, very confident with the drilling that we've done. And if some of you want to look at some of our exploration news releases over the last 12 months, they have been very, very good at all of our different locations. So our ability to be able to find more high-grade material into the future, that is not a particular worry for us. You can see, and I'm sure all of you are market participants, you can go to whatever your favorite market tracking site is and see our share performance over the last 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 24 months. And in any of those time periods, we have beat any market comparable. And I'm really quite proud of that. Over the last 24 months, as we've been building the company, the market for precious metals companies, the market for precious metal shares has not been good. We've been necessarily raising money to build the company in a down market through that whole piece. And I would say very candidly that we've been generally undercapitalized through that whole piece. However, we continue to make progress and we continue to build that quarter over quarter production growth, which I think, given the environment, is even more remarkable. Always nice to be able to see who is investing alongside of you. Endeavour Silver is our largest shareholder by virtue of the fact that they took back some stock on our very first purchase of El Cubo with them. However, they did also write us a $3 million check on a private placement of our shares that we did a little over a year ago. So I think that that's a good statement as to what our friends at Endeavour think about how we're going about building the company and expanding the company. US-based institutional fund called Fidelity. That's the Boston-based precious metals Fidelity. Again, very supportive of how we're going about building the company. I'll just mention one more on this list, and that's Mermican Capital. Mermican is a Connecticut-based investor solely in small cap and micro cap precious metal companies. Dan Oliver is the fund manager and is also on our board of directors. Dan has been instrumental in driving capital towards the company for a number of years, and always very, very helpful. And CEOs in these presentations always like to talk about all of the people who are involved in the company. This morning I'm just going to mention one person, and that is Ramon Davila. So Ramon is president of the company. I'm CEO and chairman. Ramon is president and in charge of all Mexican operations. In my estimation, Ramon has the best CV in Mexican mining. He has had huge success everywhere he's gone, including with Peñoles, that company that is Mexico's largest mining company, nigh on 40 years ago. Ramon also went on to work with Luis Min prior to it being purchased by Wheaton River and then subsequently by Goldcorp. He then went on to have success. He purchased a mine called La Colorada personally, and eventually sold that mine to Pan American Silver and worked with Ross Beatty at Pan American for 5 years. Pan American is a multi-billion-dollar silver mining company, and La Colorada continues to be, again, in my estimation, their best asset. Ramon then went on to be one of the founders and the chief operating officer of First Majestic, and that's probably the easiest place where we see Ramon's success. Ramon, when he started with First Majestic, that company had 4 employees. When he left, they had 4,000. They had no production when he started. He restarted or built 5 different mines. They had 12 million silver equivalent ounces of production per year when he left. And the only reason that he left really was to take a political role. He became the economy minister for the state of Durango, where he lives. Our success so far and our future success will very largely depend on Ramon directing traffic here and being on our board of directors. So that is the whole presentation. I think I've done the 40-minute presentation in 20 minutes as promised, and happy to take questions from anybody. I can see a couple of them coming in here. Do you plan to buy any new mines in the near future? I can tell you that there are numerous opportunities in Mexico right now to expand our production. We have looked at many. We now have a very, very high bar in terms of value set for Guanajuato silver. So neither I nor the board will pull the trigger on something unless we can see real deep value, unless we can see it's going to be accretive to shareholder value very, very quickly. Thoughts on your valuation and catalysts for revaluation of Guanajuato? That's a great question. We currently trade with about 100, plus or minus, más o menos, about $100 million US dollar market cap. Every CEO in the world thinks that his shares are undervalued, so I'm no different than that. What I will say is that I think that the market correctly anticipates our continued growth. We have built the company pretty much from scratch over the last, well, we'll call it 30 or 36 months, I guess. That trajectory is going to continue. We are not big enough yet. We need to continue to build economies of scale if we want to continue to drive profitability. So as I said a moment ago, we are desirous to continue to expand our footprint. We want the mines, if we had a Christmas wish list, we want them precious metals heavy, silver focused, and within our current areas of expertise. And as I say, there's lots of different opportunities, but we're not going to pull the trigger on something, as so many other mining companies do, that overpay and then get themselves into trouble afterwards. Why are the prior producers selling their mines? So I think it's in terms of Endeavour Silver and Great Panther, 2 different reasons really, and I don't want to equate those 2 things. So let's talk about Endeavour Silver. Endeavour made a business decision to close El Cubo, and they closed another one of their what they deemed to be smaller mines called El Compás, maybe 2 years ago as well. And they are focusing on a very large development project in Western Mexico called Terronera. They're spending a lot of money on it. I don't have the numbers in front of me exactly, but I think the financing was about $170 million. It's going to be a big mine. And from their view, that's where they want to move their company. So that enabled us to have an opportunity to come in and buy and own a mine that's very silvery, that has a long history, and that they simply didn't feel was big enough to provide profitability. When they closed it, silver prices were about $17 an ounce. Things change fast in our industry. Currently, silver prices are just under $25 an ounce. So being able to move that asset into the future, I think obviously helps a great deal. Combine some of the infrastructure with Kubo, which is only about 10 miles from here, and some of our other mines, that really helps in the synergies that we've been able to bring to this. So let me continue to fully answer that question. Great Panther was different. Great Panther got themselves into some trouble in a mine in Brazil. The company, subsequent to our purchasing of their Mexican mines, had to declare bankruptcy because of that. But that enabled, that set of circumstances enabled us to buy mines that, again, were accretive, that we could combine infrastructurally with Kubo in a manner that they had been unable to do, and obviously at a very good price. Can you discuss your all-in sustaining cost and ability to realize additional cost efficiencies? Pardon me. Let me just, pardon me. Let me turn back to a slide that will be more helpful in discussing that, which might be, hang on, there we go. So all-in sustaining costs, I think if you look across the board at even some of the larger companies, their all-in sustaining costs are not dissimilar to what we have here. But as I mentioned before, we have bought fixer-uppers. We need to spend money on CapEx, which we've been doing in a tight financing market. So we will continue to do that. And so I think, again, with all candor, I think it would be unrealistic for us to show a dramatic lowering of our all-in sustaining cost for another 18 months or so. The business is designed, we are planning to spend money on CapEx while driving up our production quarter over quarter, which I think is pretty plain. We've done a pretty good job at doing just that. The question also alludes to, so what is it in the CapEx that you're doing? So let me give you one really good, easy example. So for whatever reason, when Endeavour had the El Cubo mine, the southern part, which we call Villalpando, and the northern part, Santa Cecilia, were never connected underground. So in order to do the plant that you can see in this slide, or that slide, what one had to do was to drive about 6.5 kilometers around a small mountain and then back down into this little valley to get to the plant. Well, by spending $400,000 underground, we have built a ramp which connects Santa Cecilia and Villalpando. We did that about 9 months ago. We believe that we got payback from that investment within about 4 or 5 months, because you don't have to drive the 6 kilometers around the outside. So we save in haulage costs, in fuel. You can simply drive all the way underground and then exit and go here. So I think it's a good example of immediate low-hanging fruit CapEx that we can spend in order to make the business better. Let me see here. What is your capital position and milestones for the next 12 months? Well, let me, I see we've only got about 1.5 minutes left, so I'm going to try and wrap it up on that question. And I'm always sensitive at these times vis-a-vis American and SEC rules regarding commenting on financings. But as a statement of fact, we announced a bought deal financing just a few days ago with Cantor Fitzgerald Canada. And this is not an endorsement or a recommendation of participating in the financing whatsoever. I just, I want to state that. However, I do think that having Cantor Fitzgerald involved in a bought deal for our company at this time is a great statement about what they and what the rest of the street thinks about the prospects for our company. And I think I will just end it at that. So thank you all very, very much for your attention, for your interest in Guanajuato silver. If you like silver, we are the fastest growing silver mining company in Mexico. So thank you all very much.